Hey friends, welcome back to another weekly wellness update. Today I'm going to be addressing some comments I've gotten recently about my sugar fasting, sugar diet experiment that I did, but then also I got the same kinds of comments a couple of months ago when I was talking about my transition from keto to eating a little bit higher carb. And so I just wanted to dig into it a little bit. We're going to be talking a lot about gut health. And speaking of the gut, I want to say a big thank you to Armra colostrum for sponsoring the video today. Armra colostrum has been a big tool in my own health journey. It is a one ingredient bioactive whole food that can help strengthen and support the gut. And so I use it for all gut related issues that you would think of, like bloating and things like that. But the gut and gut health really affect every part of our body, including hair, skin, nails, recovery after exercise. All these things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with the gut can really be strengthened and boosted from strengthening and boosting your gut health. And Armra colostrum is a great tool for that. I take 4 scoops per day, and I usually just dry scoop them straight into my mouth. It actually tastes really good. It's very pleasant, and I've also heard it's good for the oral microbiome, so I'm all for that. But you can also just mix it into any cold liquids and just drink it down, mix it into a smoothie or something like that. So it's really easy to take. So if Armra colostrum looks like something you would like to try to support your gut health, you can get a 15% discount on your first order by using my link or code. The link is armra.com/indigo, ARMRA.com/indigo, or just use the code indigo at checkout and that will get you that 15% off your first order. Thanks again to Armra for sponsoring today, and now let's get into the chat. So over the past couple of years, I have shared a whole lot about my gut health journey here on YouTube, and one big part of that was my addressing SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And this video isn't primarily about how I overcame SIBO. I have other videos about that, but this video I want to address the idea that the way that I'm choosing to eat now could possibly cause SIBO to return. So here are a couple of comments that will give you an idea of the type of comment I am responding to in this video. I've gotten this kind of comment many times, so this is just a couple of examples. The first one says, I am curious to see how your gut does after this. This was on my sugar diet experiment. I can't imagine doing this after SIBO. I'd be too worried to wreck it again. Another comment says, remember, eating this way will cause SIBO to return. Be careful. Okay, so I want to address this idea that eating carbohydrates in general, or sugar in particular, will cause SIBO. So I think, in my own, personal opinion here, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, not giving any medical advice, but my opinion about this is that there's a confusion between the actual root cause of, in this case, SIBO, and symptoms, things that trigger symptoms, and they're not always the same thing. I have kind of a silly analogy here, but hopefully it'll help you understand what I'm trying to communicate. So imagine that you hurt your foot, and maybe it kind of came on gradually. It wasn't like a big event where you knew how you hurt your foot. It just kind of gradually your foot started hurting, and you realized that if you walked on it, that it hurt. And you're like, okay, if I walk on my foot, it makes the pain come. Therefore, walking must be the problem. And so if I just cease from walking, I don't get the pain. So walking was the cause. Now, clearly we see that this is a very silly, simplified analogy, but I think something very similar can happen and has happened to me in my own health journey, where I find myself experiencing symptoms, and maybe they came on gradually, and I just find myself in a place where if I eat a salad, I know that my gut is going to hurt and I'm going to get bloated. And it's really easy in that situation to say, salads are the problem. And I know that they're the problem because when I cut out salads, I don't have that bloating and that pain. It's just logical. My thinking on the subject has really changed in the last couple of years as I have gone further down the road of finding root causes and addressing root causes. And what I found was when I did that work, which obviously is not an easy journey, it does take a lot of work, but when I did that work, I was able to go back to eating certain things that used to give me symptoms, and they no longer give me the same symptoms. And so from my own experience, I was able to kind of let go of the idea that a specific food was bad because I didn't have the experience of it causing me the symptoms anymore. If that food was the root cause of the symptoms that I was experiencing, then there wouldn't be a time where I would be able to consume that food and not experience the symptoms. So because I have changed my gut health and now can eat certain foods without having those symptoms, I have to reconcile with the fact that there was something else going on that was causing my issues, and it wasn't the food itself. It is extremely clear from anyone or most anyone who has ever done an elimination diet trying to get to the root of symptoms that changing your diet can affect your symptoms. But I now see it as a Band-Aid on the actual issue. In my experience of being on a very strict keto and carnivore diet for a long amount of time, I found that that didn't get to fixing the root cause. Now, if I stayed on a very, very strict keto or carnivore diet, I was able to keep my symptoms under control pretty well, at least like the gut symptoms. If I didn't eat a lot of green vegetables, I didn't get that bloating. So obviously there is a place for elimination diets and getting symptoms under control. That's a really valuable tool. But what I found was it didn't get to the root of the issues, and I ended up finding myself in a worse place as far as nutrient deficiencies and different things like that. Even though it did help with some symptoms, it wasn't leading me to optimal health. So when I completely changed my approach to health and to my gut health by addressing the deeper issues and the root causes, and I do have a video all about that, so I will link that up in the cards. But when I did that, and when I actually addressed my SIBO, it completely changed the way my body reacted to foods. So I did not have to keep narrowing down my diet in order to keep symptoms at bay. And because I am not a doctor, I actually asked this exact question to Dr. Nikki Deneza when I had her on my channel a few months ago. She is a SIBO expert. She treats people with SIBO and helps them to support their gut. And so I asked her this question in that interview. And so I want to put a clip in here of her answer to that question. So there's one kind of recurring comment that I'll get since I've expanded the diversity of my diet since dealing with SIBO. Mm-hmm. I will get people commenting saying, why would you add back foods that caused your SIBO in the first place? As if
they didn't cause the SIBO in the first place. Like easy answer.
There's kind of an idea that it's like whatever diet you were eating caused the problem, but you just outlined food poisoning mm-hmm. and the proton pump inhibitors or whatever. And those are, more like actually causing the problem. And it's not necessarily caused by a bad diet, a bad diet.
Well, I'll one up you on this too, is that, or not one up, but I'll add to the conversation. We have zero evidence, and I have zero clinical experience seeing that a poor diet can cause SIBO.
Okay.
Right. Like I have yet to see that, where we talked about the root causes of the story and did all the history. And I thought, gosh, golly gee, it's just because you were eating shit. There's always something else that was happening. And again, it might not be the root cause or the trigger happened on a Tuesday and then the bloating started on Wednesday. It could have been bubbling for a few months. Like food poisoning, pretty classically, you have food poisoning. It sucks very bad. Then there's a period of time where you feel okay. And then maybe a few months later, the sort of IBS bloaty SIBO-y stuff starts to creep in. And there's a whole mechanism of why it happens that way. But that's why when I talk about root causes with my students and my patients, I like to look at the 6-month window before symptoms started or before a really big flare started, for that matter. But yeah, there's something else that perturbs the system.
Yeah.
There's so many people walking around eating absolute garbage and they don't have SIBO necessarily
Right.
because of it. But the step further that I wanted to throw out there is that we have zero evidence that any diet can treat SIBO.
Okay.
I've looked. There's zero. We have an abundance of research stating that these quote unquote SIBO diets, including but not limited to low FODMAP, disrupt the microbiome and deepen states of dysbiosis, probably making it harder to heal. Like that's actually been very, very well documented. But we have no evidence whatsoever that any restricted diet or any SIBO diet can actually treat SIBO. It is a symptomatic Band-Aid, and that is valuable in the short term while you're kind of getting your ducks in a row and you're trying to actually get at the root causes and build yourself back up and become healthy and resilient. But we mustn't mistake SIBO diets with a treatment. And that's one of the biggest SIBO mistakes I see going is that people think they're treating with the restricted diet and they're not. It's Band-Aid. There's a big difference.
So in my experience, since I did actually address the SIBO rather than just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms, I find that I don't have to worry about SIBO returning. I can now eat a huge variety of foods. I find that I am able to build my own diet based on, flavors I want to enjoy or nutrients I want to get from specific foods without having symptoms that I might experience dictating what I can and can't eat, which is incredibly freeing. And so I find that I don't even have to worry about this is going to cause SIBO to return, because in my opinion, if you are having to continue to micromanage your diet in order to not have SIBO return, it probably means that SIBO was never dealt with in the first place, and that maybe there's some, digging deeper that needs to happen in order to actually get it resolved. And like Dr. Nikki said, there's not really a lot of evidence for the idea that carbohydrates or even bad food in general is the cause of SIBO. Obviously, I'm not saying that we should all just eat all kinds of bad food because it's not going to cause any problems. We do want to build a diet that is nutrient dense and meets all of our different needs in order to keep us healthy. And like Dr. Nikki says, keep us SIBO proof. But like she said, the food itself is not the cause of SIBO. There's a whole list of things that can cause SIBO. And typically it's not really accepted that eating carbs or eating even bad food in general is the cause of SIBO. So that is my experience. I hope that was helpful. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you again in the next video.